raw material for clay bricks production is, of course, clay, and the entire manufacturing process involves several short steps, which begin with the extraction of the clay. However, not just any kind of clay is extracted. When it comes to the production of clay bricks, a special kind of clay referred to as shale is used. Shales are clay that have been subjected to an insane amount of pressure, which causes them to be extremely hard and have a thin appearance, almost like that of a slate. These shales are extracted from the quarry by highly advanced machines. While these shales are being extracted, a relatively lesser amount of regular surface clay is extracted as well, and at the end of the day, both kinds of clay are placed in high-capacity vehicles, which transport them to a storage area. In the storage area, the shales, which have been buried several meters underground, are finally exposed for a while. This exposure makes them weaker than when they were first extracted, and this softening makes them easier to process once they get to the brick-making factory. At the end of the storage period, some of the shales would have reduced to small grains. However, some remain as lumps and big particles that still have to be crushed. At the factory, the heterogeneous shale mixture is placed under a 4-foot-high stone wheel with the steel tire, which grinds the uneven clay into smaller particles. This massive grinding machine grinds up about 50 tons of shales per hour, and even with the great crushing pressure, some small lumps manage to escape being crushed. For this reason, the newly formed powdered shales are then passed through several vibrating screens, which separate these small lumps from the mix. These lumps are then taken back to the grinder, where they're crushed again, and the process continues until the desired texture of shales is produced. When this is done, the powdered shales are sent off to the next production phase, forming. The forming phase involves converting the powdered clay into a much thicker clay paste, and the star of this phase is a machine called the pug mill. As the shales pass from the grinder, they are directed to the pug mill, where the homogeneous powder is mixed with water until a thick plastic clay paste is formed. This consistency is achieved thanks to the revolving shafts present in the pug mill chamber. Next, this newly formed paste is sent to a machine called the extruder, where the next production phase occurs. The purpose of the extruder is to shape the clay paste into the cuboidal shape that bricks are generally known to have. At the extruding machine, the thick paste is passed through a square-shaped opening, and a long continuous piece of clay block, called a slug, is formed on the other side. The extruder has several openings, and the factory usually has more than one functional extruder per time. This way, several slugs are formed at a time, and the production process is sped up. Next, the slugs are passed through a textured roller, which textures the surface of the slugs and confers a certain kind of design on their surface. After texturing, the slugs are passed through a giant cutter, which acts as a guillotine and divides each slug into individual clay bricks. Then comes the delicate process of stacking these bricks on top of each other, preparing them for the next stage. The stacking is done by a machine which carries a specific number of bricks and transports them to the drying chamber, where most of their moisture content is evaporated. These dryers are set to a temperature between 100 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Depending on the moisture content of the bricks are left in these chambers for a day or two. The conditions of the drying chambers are controlled by a factory worker to prevent extreme temperatures, which can lead to the cracking of these bricks. After drying, the bricks are put through the next process, hacking, which involves stacking them in a kiln. This hacking process is done through the use of mechanical fingers, and the number of bricks hacked per time depends on the size of the kiln. A factory worker also checks to see that the bricks are arranged in the right pattern, as this can hugely affect the appearance of the bricks once the firing stage is over. This brings us to the next production stage, which is firing. This firing stage usually takes place inside a compartment called a kiln, and the intensity of firing depends on a number of factors, including the kind of kiln used. First, the tunnel kiln is the most commonly used, followed by the periodic kiln. These kilns are lit for anywhere between 10 to 40 hours, and they typically run on natural gas, coal, sawdust, methane gas from landfills, or a combination of these fuels. Throughout the firing process, the temperature inside the kilns can be anywhere from 400 to 2400 degrees Fahrenheit, and at the end of this process, the bricks are offloaded with the use of a robotic arm. After they've been taken out of the kiln, the bricks are left to cool for hours, depending on the kind of kiln used. For example, cooling time is twice the regular duration if a periodic kiln is used for the firing stage. Cooling is an important phase that cannot be overlooked because it influences the final color of the bricks and affects the bricks' quality at the end of the day. Once that's been done, the next stage is de-hacking, which involves unstacking the bricks with the help of a mechanical finger. At this point, the production process is practically done. However, certain kinds of bricks have holes inside of them, and these are called hollow bricks. They are made through virtually the same process as regular bricks. However, a certain stage sets them apart from the others. Remember the process of extrusion where the brick slugs are formed? The extruders used to make hollow bricks are somewhat different. As the thick clay paste is pushed through these extruders, a special inbuilt pin is pushed into the resulting slugs, and the size and shape of these pins determine the size and shapes of the holes left in the slugs. Hollow clay bricks were specially made to overcome the overweight problem, as heavy bricks are a less popular construction choice. Once the bricks have been completely made, a technician thoroughly checks each brick for mistakes and to see if they meet the customer's demands. Once that's taken care of, the bricks are graded and packaged, then placed in a storage yard or loaded in trucks for delivery. What's your most preferred clay brick design? Leave your answer in the comments section below.